My message to anyone thinking about going out on your own, first of all, it is not all roses and sunshine. It is not for everyone. There's a question that leaders forget to ask. It's a humbling question. You learn a lot when you ask it, and that's, how can I be the best leader for you? Autonomy is a huge inspiring force. Micromanagement never inspired anyone. Yelling at people never inspired anyone. And when you want your team to do incredible things, you have to give them the space to do the jobs they were hired for.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, let's get it started. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm going to be your host today, and in the studio, we have Lyndsay Dowd. How are you?
Oh, great, Rick. Happy to be with you today.
Awesome. The feeling is likewise. I'm so glad. I've been waiting for this show. I kept checking my calendar. I'm just like, when's this going to be? When's this going to be? And so it's like, I'm glad we're finally here.
Let's have some fun. Let's do this.
Absolutely. Lyndsay is a speaker, founder, author, coach, podcast host, and natural born disruptor. We're going to find out what that means, right?
Yes, I like
Awesome.
that.
So folks, before we get started, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, let's get started. So, Lyndsay, tell us about yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Sure. So I'll tell you my story, because that's the easiest way to do this. So I spent 25 years in corporate America, and 23 were climbing the ranks at IBM. And I came from a really big blue legacy. My family put in 105 years there, so everyone thought I was going to die there, but I didn't. I was the last one, and I was ready for a change. So after 23 years, another company sought me out and said, "Hey, would you come lead a sales team for us?" And I said, "Sure." So I packed up my big blue legacy and off I went. And any executive knows that it takes at least 6 months for you to be able to find the bathroom. It's a lot to learn, lots to process, and it's, different systems, whatever. But that's not what they had in mind. And they fired me after 6 months. And I was gutted. I thought I was the only executive to ever be fired. I thought no one would ever want to work with me again. And for a month, I couldn't talk about it. And at the end of that month, I asked myself 3 questions. What am I really good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? And I knew how to build modern leaders, and I knew how to create irresistible culture that drives results. So I started my company. I bet on myself. I called it Heartbeat for Hire. And I started coaching C suites and individual leaders. I started my podcast. That was 140 episodes ago. I wrote a couple of books. I got some awards, and I started keynote speaking as well. And in October of last year, I was invited to be the chief revenue officer of a company called Intry, which helps job seekers. We have 360 degrees of helping job seekers through working with companies, working with career coaches and resume writers, and working with job placement agencies like Goodwill. It's very on brand. And I think I saw a horrible statistic today that said 172,000 people were laid off in February alone. So I have a feeling I can help. So I'm really looking forward to making a dent in that number.
Wow. What does Entry do that's so different than perhaps other recruiting firms?
Yeah, well, so we're not a recruiting firm. So I'll describe what we do. There's kind of three legs to the stool. So the first leg is we help with companies that are going through layoffs. So we have an outplacement alternative. So typically when people are laid off, the company provides outplacement services in the form of coaching or resume help or interviewing stuff. We do a different approach. We do very small 20-person cohorts that are bespoke and tailored to the individuals. They're 2-day intensives. So somebody would leave with several versions of an ATS ready resume. How do you tell your story? What's your unique value prop? You'd get an optimized LinkedIn profile, a job search strategy, interviewing tips and techniques, speaking with recruiters, salary negotiation, and mental health. And so you come out of that. We have a really high success rate because what happens is after the people go through these 2 days, all of a sudden their shoulders are back. They understand they have a brand, they have a story to tell, they're ready to go network, and they have a plan. So that's one offer. Another thing that we do is we work with career coaches and resume writers, and we built a tool called Career Compass. And it's this way for career coaches and resume writers to manage their business so they can visualize everybody in one spot. It's a little better than a Google Sheet or a Google Doc. It's a lot richer, but they also are able to extend the value to their clients like exponentially. So there's an AI mock interviewing tool, there's a cover letter generator, there's a networking tracker where you can import your LinkedIn contacts and you can keep track of how you're networking with folks.
Wow.
There is a True You assessment, which talks about your personality traits and what jobs are right for you. And there's so much more. The only way you get into using Career Compass is through career coaches and resume writers because we believe you need expertise. Nobody should go this alone. And hey, nobody ever got an MBA in job seeking. And then the last thing we do is we work with agencies like Goodwill. So they access our patented technology. And if in a normal month they would place 100 people, they're placing 300 people without expanding their team. So it's just streamlining their process and speeding it up so they're able to do a lot more with what they already have.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's a wonderful resource. I mean, what kind of results are you guys getting?
Well, with the outplacement alternative, we'd actually started that by working with job seekers directly. And we actually think we're going to do this again. So we built these career accelerators for job seekers. But the frightening thing for a job seeker is the moment you hear you're losing your job, you like lock up your bank account. You don't want to spend any money. And if you're anything like me and you spend all this time in corporate, the concept of investing in yourself is pretty foreign.
Hmm.
You're happy for the company to pay for your education and any extra upskilling you want to do. But typically, people, as soon as they hear, $2,000, they're like, "Ugh," every dime I need to go towards my family or towards whatever. But what they don't understand is these are life skills and you need to learn them for everything you're going to do because telling your story is going to go on for the rest of your life. So every promotion, every interview, every opportunity you're in an elevator, every time you're meeting someone at a cocktail party, you need to know how to talk about yourself. And most people aren't real good at this. So the success rate with those career accelerators had been really, really high. So much so that 6 Fortune 50 companies reached out to us in the first few months to say, I want that as my outplacement alternative. And these are big recognizable names that you know.
Wow.
So the results are pretty incredible. I think the thing that's the most impressive and the thing that was the most unexpected to me was when we did our first career accelerator and I saw that mental health was on the agenda, I was like, oh, that's nice. That's good.
Hmm.
I'm not doing it. So I didn't know what it was about, but I'm like, I'm glad we're doing that. Well, apparently it was a confidential part of the thing, so I wasn't in it, but they told me after the fact, they said the floodgates opened, everyone was sobbing, everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's so hard to talk to my partner, it's so hard to talk to my friends. I don't know how to set expectations. This is hard." And so we gave them tools so they knew how to set expectations and set up boundaries and be able to confidently express themselves through this really painful process. And when we did a whole bunch of focus groups with chief people officers and CHROs, we asked them about their current outplacement services. And the response we got from them was pretty much the same across the board. They're all kind of the same. And when we told them that we did this mental health piece, they're like, never lose that. That's the best thing you've ever done. Could we have an add on for our HR department? Could we do mental health with them because they need it? It's so hard.
Mhm.
So I think that is one piece that really differentiates us from our competition. And a lot of our competitors are leaning really, really heavy into AI.
Mhm.
So they're automating much more than we are. We really believe that the human touch is really important through this process. We have a lot of AI and we have a lot of technology in our solutions. But the bespoke part, the coaching, the one on one, the people we bring in to run these, they're the best in the space. Our mental health people do not know how to write resumes, nor should they. And our resume writing people might not be the best LinkedIn folks, nor should they. So we really want to bring in the best folks to give you the best of each of those categories.
Wow, wow, wow. That's got to be such a relief to folks that are going through that. I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I mean, I've never only had like one corporate job like ever, but I can't imagine. I mean, you've got you've got your cushion. You know what's going to happen day after tomorrow, and all of a sudden that cushion is pulled out from under you. I mean,
So let's
It's
talk about that because
yeah, let's
I was in my job for 23 years, which is
mhm.
not one job. Every 2.5 to 3 years, I had a new job, but I was at one company for that. And I thought I was totally safe. I'm telling you, my father was there for 41 years. He was laid off 4 times. He thought he was safe. I mean, he bounced back each time, but nobody is safe. And so there's no such thing as job security anymore. There's only career security, and you've got to build that for yourself. So I don't want anyone to think you just went to President's Club. Fantastic. You might be first on the chopping block because you make too much money. So nobody is exempt. And you have to fortify your brand. You have to show up on LinkedIn. You have to have a really smart banner and a good headline that talks about who you are, not your job, not the company you work for. It's what you stand for, why people want to come to you. What is your expertise, your zone of genius? That's the piece that you need people to understand no matter where you're working.
Yeah, yeah. I love that term, career security. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that. I love that. So what was your transition like? I mean, you go from, this corporate job to running your own business. Tell me about that. What was that experience like?
Yeah. So, I went in thinking like, I've run so many first of a kind businesses for IBM. I've done really hard things. I've had accounts where I had $150 million quotas. I can do this.
Mhm.
Oh my God, it's such a different skill set. It is such a different skill set. I mean, no one was booking my travel. Nobody was managing my calendar. I had to hire people to do taxes. Like, oh, there were so many things that I hated that I was ill prepared for. I think my message to anyone thinking about going out on your own, first of all, it is not all roses and sunshine. It is not for everyone. And you have to be extremely strong in your ability to tell your story. You have to validate that your solution is actually needed and is not just a good idea. A good idea might not make any money. And here's the other thing, it's a roller coaster. You're going to have great months, you're going to have crappy months, and it might take a hell of a lot longer than you planned. And lastly, it's expensive. You have to start paying for your tech stack. You have to get people to do things for you that you don't have skill sets for because nobody knows everything. Nobody. I don't care how skilled you are in business. Nobody knows everything. But the most important thing of all of this that I learned is find community. There are people that are already doing this that are very, very good at what they do. Be curious. Go ask for coffee chats. Be complimentary and very generous on LinkedIn because when you have an opportunity to learn from the best, you're going to save yourself from making some of the mistakes they made or I made. But to me, the one thing that has really changed everything was being a part of a really robust community. I'm part of something called the Outlier Project, and it's 700 or so people who choose to live extraordinary lives. And these people are from all different walks of life. We've got ex military, a lot of athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs, Ivy League professors, speakers, authors, you name it. But like, these people are amazing, and we get together at least 3 times a week. Now, can I go to every meeting? No, but I go to the ones that I can, and we have and opportunities to ask safe questions. Even when you think it's stupid, everybody wants to see you win. And one of the things I learned is you have to create a personal board of advisors, your PBA. These are the people who aren't threatened by you, they get you, and they're here to help and bail money. But these are the people that are really going to be in your corner, and they're going to get you out of that funk when you are doubting yourself and when you think you're doing it wrong, you're about to throw in the towel. They're going to say, "I see you. You're totally okay. You've got this. And you're capable beyond capable. Go. Get your head out of the clouds. Go." And those people are incredible. And I will tell you, my parents, they had no interest in me being an entrepreneur. I mean, my father was in the same company for 41 years. My mother was a school teacher. It was, you need benefits. You're raising a family. Like, how are you going to survive? What's going to happen? Like, they had visions of me being destitute on the street corner with, a tin cup. And like, that wasn't ever going to happen. But That's what they thought. So they were not going to be good advisors for me. They don't know
Right.
from podcasting. They don't know from writing books. They don't know from coaching and building your business yourself. They're the wrong people to be advising me. And I had to create some boundaries. So I couldn't go to them to say, like, I'm scared. Because if I said that, well, give it up, go back to IBM, go get a job. That would be so much better. I just wanted to bet on myself. So I found the people that were doing the same stuff that I was doing, but were doing it well. And I wasn't afraid of asking them the hard questions.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you really checked all the boxes. The one thing that we talk about a lot is that lonely journey of being an entrepreneur. So it sounds like you wouldn't ever go back. You would never turn the dial back and say, "Hey, I'd like to be back at IBM or something like that." Is that right?
Well, now I'm a CRO of a startup. So I've done corporate, I've done entrepreneur, still doing entrepreneur, and now I'm doing a startup. I didn't ever think I would do entrepreneur or startup. So here I am.
Right.
I'll never say never. And I think anybody that does that, you're just kind of boxing opportunities out. I think the one
Mm,
thing that I've learned is you stay open and you stay curious. And a lot of opportunities have come my way that I never planned for. Planned to lecture at Harvard, yet I got to do that. Never planned to have
mhm,
a billboard in Times Square. I don't know anybody that did that before me. I mean, there were lots of people that did it, but I didn't know them.
right.
So when you stay open and you meet these people that come across your radar and they're like, "Wait a minute. What are you doing? You've learned all these lessons. You're an author. I want you to come and talk to my class, or I want to feature you in some place, or I'll tell you the billboard story because this is actually really cool. So, my friend Matt Immersion, who's this very well-known speaker, he has a foundation called Every Monday Matters, and it's about telling people that they matter. And in many cases, children are not told that ever. Certainly, people in prisons are not told that. Seniors are not told that. And so, he built this curriculum for teachers and it's free. They don't have to pay for it, but they can tell kids that they matter. And so he did this Billboards for Good campaign and he said, "Hey, Lens, you know a lot of people. Any chance you could help me find some folks who might want to do a billboard in Times Square? All the proceeds from the billboard will go to Every Monday Matters." I said, "Well, let me do a post for you. I'll try." So I got him 8 people and he was so happy. He was like, "Dowd, you're freaking fantastic. You get one for free." So that's how that worked. We've stayed great friends. He's doing another campaign right now. And I just love what he stands for, but I wouldn't have met him if I wasn't part of that community because he was an outlier too. And it's just like that's the kind of stuff you have to stay open to. So you got to get out of the fear of networking. You've got to stay curious, and it can bring all kinds of good stuff your way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of which, what made you get into becoming an author?
Again, not something I planned for. My publisher reached out to me and she said, "You have a story to tell and I want to help you tell it." And I was like, "I'm a better talker than I am a writer. Are you sure?" And she was like, "No, it's important we do this." And so her process was wild. It was perfect for me because it was fast. But the way that we wrote the book was kind of like a podcast because we basically built the construct of, this is the table of contents, this is what's going in the book. So we knew kind of the ways we were going to navigate. And then each week she'd be like, "Okay, chapter one, this is the topic, go." And we'd record it. And there was a ghostwriter who would basically transcribe everything and turn it into something much more articulate than the way I was speaking. I will say the first draft I got, I was horrified. I'm like, "What have I done? This is ridiculous. Who would ever read this?" And they're like, "No, that he just doesn't know your voice yet. He's gonna," and the next chapter was much better. But I was like, "Oh my God, he wrote exactly what I said." And no, no, that's not how it should go. So anyway, it was fine. But the whole process from beginning to end was 90 days. And so that is
Wow.
a very fast way to write a book. So I loved it. And any author will tell you that two things. One, the hardest part isn't writing the book. The hardest part is the day that it's published and you hold your breath and you hope that people like it and that they buy it. That's the hard part. But the other thing is there's stuff you still want to change. There's things that I would go back and fix, but you
Mm,
can't do it. So someday you can rewrite it and re-release it, whatever. But It's out there. So it lives on in all its glory. And you just have to make peace with that.
Well, congratulations for that. That's awesome. So one of the things you talk about a lot and work with a lot is leadership, and you talk about heart-centered leadership. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in tech, I was the only woman on a lot of all male teams for many, many years. And my examples of leadership were not that inspiring. The way that I saw leadership, and I don't mean that this was my philosophy, I mean, this is what I saw, was let's use sports analogies to inspire these people. And I don't give a crap about sports for the most part. I like the Olympics and I like all my Olympians who've been on my show and all the professional athletes I get to talk to. But don't tell me about the play on the 40th yard line and expect that I'm going to find some deep inspiration that's going to make me go close a deal. Like that wasn't doing it for me. And so, because I was the only woman, I didn't have a lot of examples of what good leadership looked and felt like. And it wasn't until a little later on that I started seeing, okay, there's different styles of leadership. And I'll never forget this one woman I worked for. She promoted me twice. We became very close friends. And she said to me the first time she promoted me, she goes, okay, so how do you want to run the business? And I'm looking around going, me? Yeah, me? You want to know? She said, well, you're on the ground. You've been doing this job. You know more than I do. And I was like, so exciting. Oh my God. Let me go ask my team what they want to do because now I have choices, I have options, and it means you believe in me. And every time I had a leader who gave me that kind of support, I crushed it every single time. And what I learned was autonomy is a huge inspiring force. Micromanagement never inspired anyone. Yelling at people never inspired anyone. And when you want your team to do incredible things, you have to give them the space to do the jobs they were hired for. And so when I had leaders who built really beautiful culture, I was part of leadership teams that would do anything for them. And then I've also been on the side of leadership where trust was absolutely shattered and could never be regained. And all of these stories built up my leadership philosophy. That's what inspired the book. That's what inspires my coaching. That's what inspires my keynotes. And I tell lots and lots of stories about the good and the ugly and everything in between.
Mm,
But I really believe that modern leadership leverages power skills. I don't call them soft skills because they're far too important to be called anything soft.
mm,
There's a number of those power skills that leaders can leverage. One of my favorites is delegation. And people think, oh, delegation, I'm going to get shit off my plate. This is great. Well, delegation is not about that. Delegation is saying, I have this work. You told me you were really interested in analytics, and I have this opportunity for you to run point on this. I've got your back. If you fall down, that's on me, but I want to give you an opportunity to shine. And guess what? They probably will. But if they don't, that's on you. It's not on them. And when you can give people that style and frame of leadership, oh my God, the magic happens. I have so many stories about how this works and the converse of how you can ruin trust in an organization by doing the wrong things, saying the wrong things, and acting the wrong way. So, yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what inspires my leadership philosophy and how I know to be effective.
I'd love to hear a story, with somebody that, maybe made a 180-degree turn. I mean, it's, you've got this top-down leadership, do as I say, et cetera, to the supportive leadership. Hey, go do your thing and let's figure this out, on the way. What was the great story that you've had?
So, you want a good story? Or you want a terrible story?
I want a good story.
Okay. So a good story was I had a team of about 75 people. They had come from all different parts of the business, lots of acquisitions, and they were all kind of dumped in my lap. And it was truly the island of misfit toys. They
Mm,
didn't care about what anybody else was selling. They only cared about what they were working on. They were just not that interested in knowing what anybody else was doing. And so I knew I had to create a way for them to understand each other so we could work together and we could help each other. And that is a hard thing to get people to care about stuff they don't want to care about. So I started a storytelling program and I'm a big storyteller. And so what I told them was each of you is responsible for telling a story about what it is you sell. However, You cannot use acronyms, and you have to tell it like you're talking to my retired school teacher mother. And they would look at me like, okay. But the point was, they all were really comfortable doing tech jargon, but our clients weren't going to understand tech jargon if they had never been exposed to it before. I asked them to tell these stories, and they started telling the stories. And the first story that was told, I had this woman step up and tell her story, and she finished, and everybody kind of went, "I didn't know that. I need to introduce you to my client over here. What you're selling is exactly what he needs. I just didn't know that we had that." And so she did a good job. But then the next person was up, and the next person called her and was like, "How'd you do it? What'd you say? Like, how do I do it?" And so all of a sudden they're collaborating and they're talking to each other. And bit by bit, we all started learning from each other. Well, this program really caught fire. And so I said, I think we need to make this external. And so we started making these stories external, and we started inviting our business partners and inviting clients. And I had all these business partners that were calling me now, and they were saying, "I can't believe you just did that. I had no idea that that's what you were doing. I need this in my life. I'm changing my strategy based on what I heard. More of this, please." And we were getting like 500 people showing up for these calls. And it was just, I was giving everyone an opportunity to shine. I was also really democratizing the knowledge base across the board. So everybody had a chance to understand what was in the pool of tools we had at our disposal. And it created camaraderie. It created some gentle ribbing. It created some real moments of understanding. And that, I called my teams Mavericks and Hustlers. I wanted them to think differently about themselves. I wanted them to really be able to just shine. And my peers were like, "I don't know what Dowd is doing over there. It is weird. She's got like people showing up to calls." And so all these other reps are starting to come. They're like, "Why don't we do this?" But I just am of the belief that nobody has it all figured out. There's always another approach. And I'm not the smartest one in the room. So, how else can we leverage that? How else can we get there? And by opening it up and saying those words, it allows people to raise their hand and shine.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. One of switching gears again, women in leadership is one of your other passions. Tell us, talk to me about that. Tell me about the importance and what you're seeing in it.
The importance of women in leadership?
Yeah, yeah. To importance to you.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's not enough. That's the easiest answer. I mean, they're growing up in tech, especially. It's better than it was, but it's
Hmm.
certainly not where it should be. There's still a ton of pay inequality. And, having seats at the table, I mean, you've seen the statistics. There's far less CEOs that are women. There's far less, C suite roles in general. And for some reason, people think that women are less capable. And I'm of the belief that, you want something done, give it to a busy mom because they always can get it done. And, that's been proven over and over again in my life. So I just feel like there is so many ways to lead. We don't have to subscribe to any one method. And like I said, you have to give people a chance to shine. And I think women just need to be given the same opportunities, if not more. I think we're going a little bit backwards with our political leadership right now. I think it's dangerous. And, I very much about lifting other women up. I love celebrating other women on LinkedIn. I love celebrating everyone on LinkedIn, but I really especially love giving women their flowers because we are out there doing the hard things and, trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think can be done, or what are some things that companies can do, or perhaps even women can do?
I mean, the first thing I would say is you just really want to take a moment to figure out that delegation example that I gave.
Hmm.
Any leader can do that. And when you there's a question that leaders forget to ask. And this is something that I coach my clients on. And I've asked this question. It's a humbling question. You learn a lot when you ask it. And that's, how can I be the best leader for you? Everyone's answers will be different. And that's based on tenure, it's based on age, it's based on experience, it's based on goals. But when you understand what people need, you can advocate for them and you can do things for them that are going to help them succeed. And sometimes it's, I have 5 years and I'm going to retire. And sometimes it's, I don't know if I really like this job. I think I like marketing more. Or I've never had a chance to speak in front of a group of people. Can I work on that with you? You know, when you understand what they need, you can advocate for them. And then when the person that taps you on the shoulder and says, "What's going on your team?" you know, because you've done the time. You can advocate for your whole team. So there was a friend of mine who he was at Salesforce. He was a decent sales rep, but he told his boss, he's like, I have an idea. I want to do something really different. And I want to create a program for all of the executives across Salesforce. And I want to coach them on leadership. I think there's a better way. And I really feel like we can build this program. And the guy looked at him, he's like, I don't have any power to do that. And he was like, all right, well, whatever. Well, that day, that boss ended up with the top brass running around in a car calling on clients. And he's like, what's going on your team? And he goes, well, I've got this rep. He had this idea. He wants to work with all of our senior leadership and he wants to coach them. And he's like, sounds great. Make it happen. And he did. And so this guy got to work with thousands of leaders across Salesforce. He knew everyone and he got to do really incredible things. But it was because he was able to have that conversation with his boss. And if you're not asking the questions and you don't know who your people are, shame on you. You're in the wrong job.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Again, I don't really come from a corporate background, but I guess it goes back to what you were saying about community and really being able to engage with people to a level where they can really be assets for you. One other question for you. So we were talking about women in leadership, and we hear stories about women facing adversity. In their, in whatever role they're trying to, move up, and they're just having difficult situations. How do you coach women around that so that they can really step up to the plate?
Yeah, I think you want allies. You want to build, you want to create. A lot of people like the word mentor. Mentors never really worked well for me. I find mentorship to be very inconsistent. So you meet with this person, you have a nice conversation, but usually that person's very, very busy and unable to give you more time. You lose that momentum, you lose that traction, and it kind of just withers on the vine. I kind of like when you can find those advocates who are in your corner, who both inside your company and outside your company. They're the people that you aspire to be like. They're the people that are willing to give you that time and that want to see you win. And when you can surround yourself with those kinds of people who are doing incredible things and they know what you're capable of, the best thing that could happen for you is they're talking about you when you're not in the room in a good way.
Mm, yeah,
And so when you can build that kind of network for yourself and that brand for yourself, where you're very clear in what it is you do and who it is you serve, you make it really easy for people to refer you, and you want to be referable. You want people to say, I know exactly what Lyndsay stands for. I know exactly why I would call her. I know I should
mm,
call her about job seeking. I know I could talk to her about podcasting. I know I could talk to her about X, Y, and Z. Like you want people to get you. And that's a really important thing. So anybody that is expecting people to know you, dude, no, it
yeah,
doesn't work that way. You have to be able to articulate what you've done. And for all of those folks that say, I don't like talking about myself, it's hard. Okay. Did you win President's Club? Yep. Okay. That's a fact. That's not a feeling. You can talk about that. You can talk about facts. So stop worrying about sounding braggadocious. If I tell you I did 140 episodes of my show, and I say it like, yeah, I've done 140 episodes of my show. That sounds a lot different. Like, I've done 140 episodes. Like, it's completely different. So it's tone, and it's important because if you're not talking about yourself, who is?
hmm absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We are at the end of our show, so do us a favor. We talked about a few different topics. What would be the most important thing you want someone to take away from the show?
So first, you're not alone. If you're a job seeker or if you're a woman trying to make their way through your career, there are people out there that want to see you win, that want to see you thrive and want to help. Find community. It's very, very important, especially if you're an entrepreneur. It can be extremely lonely. And don't sit there wondering, should I? If you don't know something, go ask someone. I think those are the big things. But if you're a job seeker, come find me and I can help you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You mentioned to me that you got a couple of giveaways or a giveaway that you have for folks. You want to talk about that?
We have a complimentary trial for career coaches and resume writers. It's just reach out to me, send me a DM, and I will give you the code. It's to work on Career Compass. You can have up to 10 clients. And for 60 days, you can really leverage the tool, understand what it's all about, extend enormous value to your clients. And it's fantastic. We're getting really great reviews. It's going to go live this month. We're in user testing right now, getting great feedback, but would love some people to try.
Awesome, awesome. And that's exciting. Exciting anytime you launch something new, right? So
Yes,
what we're going to do
for
is I'm going to put the link to this. I'll put we have a code. I'll put the code on in the show notes. How would someone reach to you if they wanted to have a conversation with you?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can grab me there. You can also go to my website, which is heartbeatforhire.com. You can also check us out at intrycareers.com. I'm on Insta, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok and YouTube. So I am all over the place. Not hard to find.
Yeah, yeah, you are. And if somebody wants to check out your podcast,
Yes, it's on YouTube or wherever you find your favorite podcast. It's called Heartbeat for Hire. I would love people to give it a listen. It is an absolute labor of love, and it's Olympians and CEOs and Hollywood producers and professional athletes and ex-military and all these brilliant minds sharing their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture.
and I can attest it really is a wonderful show. You've done a fantastic job with that. So, Lyndsay, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm sure our audience did too. And folks, make sure you tune into the next episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Don't forget to win.